Hi everyone, my name is Morgan Roberts at Rookie Oven, and I'm with Angela Prentner Smith with This Is Milk. She's the CEO, and we're here to talk about her job and what she does. So hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So can you first off tell us about This Is Milk?
Yeah, so This Is Milk started life as a kind of change management consultancy, but over the last year we have changed dramatically, and you'll even see this in the website over the next few days. We've really become an agency focused on digital delivery and customer experience, and we offer 4 services: people for projects, that's if you need business analysts, project managers, all with a real customer focus; horizon watching, which is looking into the future and what the future might bring for your business, and how do you get on the front foot strategically to bring about the change in the right way, in a kind of planned and foresightful way. We then offer business audits and reviews, which is like looking at the right now, what needs to change. And then finally, we just offer full end-to-end digital delivery, and we do that with a kind of partnership model. So where we don't have the skills in-house, we work with a network of other fabulous businesses that we can bring in and manage that end-to-end. And for us, it's really about getting to know your customer and designing whatever change it is you need to do in line with that customer experience that you need.
Oh, fantastic. So that sounds like a lot of stuff that you guys do.
Yeah.
What really brought you to that? Like what was your path to become
Yeah,
This Is
so
Milk?
I started my career working in the public sector at a student loans company, and kind of worked my way up there even part-time through my degree. And I did history of art at university, and did in my final year 1 module on multimedia analysis and design. It wasn't even called digital then. And by the point I graduated, I actually had a part-time job as a team manager in an operational department. And luckily, as I was graduating, a full-time position became available. And it was at that point kind of a decision for me, whether do I stay in an academic route and go on and do a PhD and all of that stuff, or do I work? And at the time I wanted a house. So I thought, well, I need to work. And there's a job there, like it's a good salary and stuff. A few months later, I can't remember how many, but it wasn't even that long, an e-business analyst position came up in the same company. Again, wasn't even called digital then. So I applied, and of course I had the operational experience of the business. I'd worked there for 4 years, plus this multimedia analysis and design course, which was quite new at that point. There weren't a lot of people that had that kind of educational background. So I got the job, and that really threw me into project world. So I was working on huge, massive transformation projects that was end to end. And what the student loans company were trying to do at that point was a customer first program. Like, let's deliver our services around the needs of the customer. It was a great experience for me. I literally saw things from start to finish and then operationally, and was there to kind of champion the role of the digital customer. And, you know, our performance targets and everything were about getting everybody online. So back in those days, they were only starting to talk about user experience. They were only just starting to talk about a digital customer. So it was really around that period. I did that job for about 3 years, and had worked on like countless projects delivering kind of end-to-end solutions in an online way. And then there were massive redundancies, and I was like, right, it's time for me to go. So I took voluntary redundancy at that point, and then went on a kind of career working on other big transformation and big projects through Scottish Power, Tesco Bank, Clydesdale Bank, and eventually at Barclays. And I was continually frustrated. I was frustrated with the lack of customer focus on programs. Things were marred by politics, things wouldn't get done in the right way, and myself and the co-founder of the company, Gillian, thought, you know what, we can actually do this better. There were consultants coming in, and they weren't very good at what they were doing, and they were leaning on us for it, and we thought, well, we can do this, and we're sick of what we're doing here. We're sick of like not being able to make changes in the right way. So at that point we started talking about, right, well, let's do it. Let's actually do this. So around that time we were like building the concept of This Is Milk. Hadn't even named it at that point.
That seems to be the hardest part, naming
yeah,
something.
naming something. So there's a story with that as well. But we got the name, we got all the brand and all of that. And then for both of us, life happened. And for me, that was I got pregnant. So we had to put the company on ice. And through my maternity leave, I either had the choice to go back to kind of contracting, and I was earning good money, going off and basically hating what I was doing, being really frustrated, or go down the startup route. But I spoke to Jillian, she was like, listen, the timing's not right for me, so we changed things, and I started working away, put my son in nursery 2 days a week and started working on the rest of the startup activities. This was last March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then so from there to here, there's been a whole evolution of the business.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, based on the people involved and really listening to our customers, getting out there and understanding what people are doing, what they need done for businesses, the type of customers that might need us, and we've really changed our business, which is what we do. We change, so you know, we've got to be an example for that as well. So This Is Milk. That's kind of the shortened journey of where we are now.
It seems like like most startups, it seems like they're really, really challenging in the beginning, but once you've kind of found that pattern, you get something so great. But you said there was a story with This Is Milk, the name.
The name, yeah. So the name, and that is probably the question I get asked the most, was where did you get the name This Is Milk? So it started with the company values. Like Jillian and I got together and said, right, what do we want to be as our mission, our vision, our values? What do we want to stand out from? So looking at our competitors, and our competitors are big businesses. Like we're out there with like Accenture and, you know, like big men in grey suits companies, and we did not want to be that. We wanted to be a breath of fresh air. We wanted to be everyday. We wanted to be something that was more friendly, approachable. We wanted to be like real life and part of. And ultimately everything was about simplicity, because that's the biggest problem, is people overcomplicate things. And that's why projects get really hard to deliver. So we wanted something really simple, and we didn't want to be men in grey suits. We wanted to be that breath of fresh air. And then we started thinking, well, the other brands that do that have our brand values, which I think at that point the words we were using were accessible, authentic, professional, and there was one other. We looked at those and they all had really simple everyday names, like apple, orange, innocent, and we thought, okay, well, we'll stick to that. So I thought, well, what about milk? Well, milk, it's the simple white stuff, and milk, it's every day. You know, you can just go pick it up at the greengrocers or wherever else. So it's got that kind of ubiquity to it. It's very adaptable. You can make your coffee better with milk. You can make a milk tart. So it had that kind of versatility element, but milk itself was taken. There was a design agency in England called Milk. So we thought, well, this is milk. It's there. We could get the domain. And we're like, well, that's a declaration. So it's This Is Milk. This is us. And this is what we're about. So it didn't start with the name. It started with the brand values.
That's fantastic, though, because that means to the core, you guys are your values. Yeah. And that is so incredibly important with customer service.
Absolutely is. Absolutely is.
That's fantastic that people can go and they write in your name. They see exactly who you are and what you stand for.
Yeah. Gives me a nice opening.
It does. Also, everyone needs milk. I mean,
exactly. That's it. Everybody needs milk.
Point.
You know, and just a little bit of milk can turn your coffee from, you know, a normal coffee to a cappuccino.
Oh, sorry, I can't even handle black milk. Like black coffee, I can't do it. I have to have sugar and milk, but I'm quite bad for that. But that's a great start to everything. So you've gotten that process, you had children, you made a startup. You've kind of touched on what that's like, but what advice would you give to people who are also starting startups? You know, what do you do when you get to life, when life is happening and you need to move forward? How do you do it?
So if there's anything I've learned in the last year and a bit of doing this, it's one, when shit happens, deal with it straight away. Don't leave it. Also, don't be afraid to ask. The worst that can happen is people say no. Amazing things have happened just because I had the bravery to just go and ask somebody. So never be afraid to ask. Never think you have to do everything yourself. Build a team. Find the talent around you. And if you've got the right vision, you've got the right values, and you're creating something amazing, people will gravitate to that, and that's an amazing thing. So stick to your values. Don't be afraid to ask, and don't try and do everything yourself, but you probably have to do a lot yourself. So also don't be afraid to do things you've never done before. And the amount of stuff I've learned this year that I didn't even know I needed to know has, it's been a massive learning curve even for myself. And I think another thing, the advice I got, I have 2 business mentors, and mentors are amazing. If you can find a mentor that you gel with, it's just an amazing thing to have. My 2 mentors, like completely different functions for me, really different relationships and everything, but they both gave me the right advice early on, which is don't wait for perfection and don't wait for the polish, because you basically lose out on lots of learning. So go out there when you're half-baked. Go out there when you're not happy with everything, because what you do is you learn from that and then you're able to perfect it and refine it. Whereas if you work for that kind of perfect, the perfect's going to be wrong and you've wasted a lot of time.
Well, it's also, you can get to that point where you think you have the perfect thing and you go out there and someone tells you it's not.
Exactly.
And dealing with that confrontation, you're like, what do you do? So it's true, if you go out half-baked, you're
learning.
You're
it's a
learning,
learning
you're prepared,
experience.
you're willing to mold to what needs to happen.
Exactly
listen
that.
to your customers, as you said earlier.
And that's what good change is about. And so like our business being about change and transformation, that's what it's all about. It's about learning from putting yourself out there not quite ready. And all of that. So that's advice. Don't be afraid to change. You know, if the advice you're getting or the feedback you're getting from your customers is this isn't right, pivot, take that change if you need to. And lastly, I think there are always going to be naysayers.
Always.
Then it's an art to ignore the naysayers, or actually know who the naysayers are and what is actually good feedback, because they can merge, but there are always going to be the people that think you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, why would you bother doing it, and all of that stuff. So
we actually have our first question coming in from Lisa. Do you think having a co-founder is necessary, and what advice would you give to a solo entrepreneur?
So
It's a hard one.
I've had a real journey with this, and I've actually just come out of a meeting with our lawyers about creating a board with different people than who I founded this company with. My personal journey is I wouldn't have done this without having a co-founder. I wouldn't have just gone out and set up This Is Milk by myself. However, the way things happened, I then did have to do it by myself for a period of time.
Right.
That period of time was very short because I needed other skills. And, you know, people were kind of coming out and saying, I'd like to help with this and all the rest of it. So I don't think you need a co-founder, but you need different skills, and you need, sometimes it's just encouragement. So I wouldn't have started this business had it not been for Gillian. She's not as involved anymore, but I wouldn't be here without her all the same.
Fair. My personal experience is completely that you don't actually need one. It's nice to have one, and it's nice to build upon that. But there's also so many outlets out there. For example, where we are right now, Rookie Oven, there are examples where people come together and you're still in that office space with other entrepreneurs doing the same thing. That can help you with motivation, but you have the power to do it yourself if needed.
Absolutely. And I think when I started this business, I didn't know about that community. And that's been a big learning for me, is like when I started, I was in a corporate environment and you're really shielded from how much is going on, because you're so involved in delivering that program, and you have to be that person, and you don't go out and you don't do the networking events, you don't come to places like this, you don't know what's going on. And I think established businesses could learn an awful lot by going out and joining startups for a while. Go and get the startups involved in what you're doing. Like, you know, give them that injection of a startup culture and startup ways of doing things, because they're so entrenched and ingrained in their way of doing things. They're missing out on opportunities for innovation, for doing things differently, for cultural improvements. And things are changing so fast now and moving so fast. Businesses should be doing that. But I was completely unaware of it. And now the amount of support that you get from other people doing what you're doing, doing something similar, it's amazing, and it buoys you up.
Exactly.
It does.
That was a great question from Lisa. I believe we have another question coming up, but just in case, let's talk more about you and your company.
All about me.
Let's go
me.
With This Is Milk. So what are you said your website is changing because you guys have grown and you're molding consistently. What are you guys looking for right now with that change?
So our strategic goals for the next year is, well, I kind of feel like we got through the first year. All kind of joking aside, we did a lot of amazing things. We really did. We achieved so much, but I do really feel like we kind of got through it by the skin of our teeth in a way. So this next year is, for me, strategically, we need to get some bigger long-term clients. We want to grow in the charity sector, so we want some kind of partnerships in the charity sector. And really, it's now about us being able to bring in the skills that we need in-house to manage the breadth of the work that we've got going on right now. So at the moment, I think we've got about 5 clients, and are unadulteratedly dedicated to customer service.
Right.
So what I don't want to do is risk giving my customers the customer service they need by growing too quickly. So this is going to be a balancing act for me about growth and delivering to the customers I have, and a lot of that will be done through partnerships with other businesses.
That actually ties in perfectly with a question from Jamie. Are most of your clients based in Glasgow, or do you work all over Scotland? And what do you think of the Scottish startup scene? So it's your clients within Glasgow, etc.
Yeah, so those are really apt questions. We have 2 Canadian clients.
Oh.
So we went global in our first year, so that was an
Okay.
achievement. 2 Canadian clients. We have clients in Glasgow. I think that's it. Glasgow and Calgary right now are our 2 main client bases. But we're also in discussions with businesses in Edinburgh. So there's no restriction on where we can work. And I think what we've proved with the Canadian clients is that distance is no object. We've done a lot of that through Skype. We've done workshops with our client, actually on the Skype screen, and we've sat and drawn up what the user journeys were going to be and everything. The startup scene in Scotland, I love. I think it's amazing. I think there's so much going on, and there are so many really exciting businesses, and there have been some inspiration stories. There have been some businesses who've done a complete detour, for example. And there's so much going on. There is a lot of support and a lot of support organizations. I might shoot myself in the foot by saying this, but what I found with them is if you can find the right people in these organizations, there's a lot of support there. But it's a bit of a battle to find the right people in the first place. So the whole network of do I go to Cultural Enterprise Office or Scottish Enterprise or Business Gateway or Women's Enterprise Scotland, it's a bit of a navigation to work all of that out. So
Experience similar, yeah.
Yeah, it can be a bit tough. But that work in itself has probably paid off in the long run. So we have had some grant funding, we have had, some kind of free advice over different things, and even the office we're in. So we're actually down the road in Orkney Street Enterprise Centre, which is an old prison. Even that,
fascinating workspace.
yeah, it is. It's amazing. So the only reason we're not there is the Wi-Fi isn't as good as the internet here, so that's why we're here today instead of the jailhouse. But even that was through a conversation with my Business Gateway advisor, so everything kind of falls into place as it should, and I'm a little bit of a believer in serendipity. Things kind of happen when they should, and even when things have gone wrong, it's been a catalyst for change. It's been a reason for me to go out there and go, I need to make a decision to make things better, and it always has worked. So yeah,
it really is putting yourself out there and consistently pushing forward. I know before this started we mentioned you called yourself a cockroach because you just kept going and surviving all of that. Can you would you mind giving us a little summary of that experience of how you kept pushing forward?
Well, my life has kind of felt like that. So I had unsettled upbringing, I think is the nicest way to put it. And when I was 15, I moved from Canada to the UK and moved with my grandmother. I then had a whole series of events. My grandmother wasn't a very nice lady. My grandfather died. I ended up living with my uncle, who then got cancer and died. I was basically squatting in his flat for a while because I was 18 at this point, had nowhere to go, ended up going and doing an art foundation course, dropping out because I couldn't afford it, then moved to Ireland with my boyfriend. That didn't work out, went back to Canada, all the same problems were there, so I moved back from Canada, and in that point I kind of went, do you know what, I need to apply for university so it gives me some stability for a few years. So I applied for university, and luckily, one thing that kind of got me through was I was quite academic. I could get through school quite easily, so I had good grades and went on and applied for university and ended up at Glasgow Uni. Off that, I'd narrowed it down to I wanted to go to Edinburgh and Glasgow. I had no connections here, no family connections, nothing. Came to Glasgow, really liked it, just felt at home here, and I've never left. So from then, I've then been through university, starting a career here, a really bad breakup, then met my husband, and now we're settled. We have a house, we have a kid, I've started a business here. And for me, a lot of the fear of starting a business and that kind of fear of failure has kind of come from, well, the worst has happened, so what could possibly go wrong? Worst thing that happens, I have to go get a job, right? That's it.
It really is.
Most people have to do anyway.
People can survive really anything when you think about it.
That's it. So just don't be afraid. usually, if you look at a situation, you go, what is the absolute worst that can happen? If it's not that you or somebody else is going to die, it's usually, well, someone will say no.
You just push past that.
Yeah, move on.
Well, we have our next question from Marina. Other than deciding to work for yourself, what was the single most important decision you made that contributed to your success?
Oh gosh.
That's a hard one.
That's a really hard one.
To me, it sounds like your survival. You're pushing through.
I think it is. I think it was a decision that I was not going to be happy if I didn't try this. And the fear of continuing on the way I was and like committing to a life almost of unhappiness, or it was never going to get any different than what it was, making that decision that I wasn't content with that, because that was the easy answer, was probably that. So it was the decision to take the risky option.
Right.
Which I suppose is the one to work for yourself. But in fairness, I was kind of working for myself anyway. I was contracting, so I was freelance anyway. So it was that. And then I think the second one, I think a decision to not be afraid to share the business. So the business isn't just about me. You can't do it all yourself. Your business will never grow if it's just going to be you.
Right.
So you have to kind of be able to be a bit malleable, be prepared to take on other people's opinions and change your business based on the people that are in it. So my business is a service business where we go out and we deliver based on the skills and of the people in the business. So that decision to bring other people on board was really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So with your business and the decision, you go in and you really help companies grow. And is it already settled companies, or is it startups, or do you have a restriction in that area?
We've actually, there's been decisions we've made and gone, this is our target market. And what was really quite funny, so I think it was September, October, we made the decision our target market was growing technology firms. Okay. And we thought, right, this is great, we've decided that's it, that's our target market. And then we were just saying, maybe we were wrong in that decision, and all of a sudden, we had a whole bunch of leads in from growing technology companies. So it was okay, well, maybe that was the right decision, it's just there's a gestation time with these things. So at the moment, the client list that we had a 6-month contract with Clydesdale Bank. Okay. We've had a personal trainer in Canada who's got global ambitions, wants to really be a digital business. We've then got a really ambitious software development firm who really want to grow, and they've just needed some help to come in and help with some project management and business analysis to really help them with their client delivery and the growth of their company. Right. So it's been quite varied. We would like to grow in the charity sector. We'd like to continue to grow with the technology firms as well. Because as I see it, there's a massive skills gap, as we all know, in digital, but it's not just on the technology side of it. You still need those kind of softer skills as well. You still need the marketing side of it. You still need the kind of customer experience design. And that's the skills gap that I'd see us filling in the future as we grow.
Wow. So question from Florian. Sorry if I said that wrong. What was the best advice you have ever gotten or received?
The best advice I got was, don't be afraid to be an idealist. So I spent months afraid that I was going to fail because of my idealism. And am I just being too idealistic? And I was kind of listening to the naysayers at that point. And then getting that advice that the world was built by idealists, so never be afraid to stick to your ideals, made me take a second and go, actually, I can forget the naysayers and stop having these gnawing kind of things in my brain. True. Because if you were to listen to the naysayers and not stick to your ideals, you'd never achieve anything.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's also, I found that you can be your own worst enemy. So
Absolutely.
If you continue to push all of that aside, you can do so much.
You absolutely can. And it's so true. This is a really, I look at this business, a very idealistic, visionary business, and I used to almost feel like I had to apologize for that. Now I don't. Now I actually think, why should I apologize for that? Have a bigger vision.
Right.
Stick to your ideals. We want to make businesses better, and we want to be a very values-driven business as well. So that's what will drive us forward. And the people that come on board will have to drive that vision forward too.
Absolutely. Do you ever find that that's a challenge to kind of saying sorry too much, if that makes sense? So say, for example, you were leaving a job and you felt you had to apologize, but you really didn't have to apologize. It's just a decision that you need to make for yourself.
So one thing my mother taught me is that guilt is a learnt response. Guilt isn't an emotion, it's a learnt response. And that has stuck in my head since I was a child. So I'm quite self-driven and self-motivated, and I kind of have an internal values compass. So I don't tend to say sorry a lot because I live by what I think is right. And one of those things that I think is right is that you don't do any harm to anybody else that you're doing. So if the decisions I'm making are in line with that kind of internal compass, that I don't think I'm doing any harm to anybody else, and I am doing the best for me and for the business or for my family or whoever it be, then I don't say sorry. And so you won't hear me say sorry very often. If I genuinely think like, you know, I'm really sorry I missed that email, or I'm really sorry I didn't get back to you, or something like that, that's probably it. But on bigger decisions, I'm not likely to apologize because I'll have made the decision for the right reasons at that time.
That's really great. So, question from Ashley: how do I find a business mentor?
So you ask. Basically, that's it. So I had my two. The first one, I contacted Women's Enterprise Scotland, and they got back to me and said, yes, we'd absolutely love to give. They don't advertise that they do it, but they found me a business mentor. The second one was a woman I know in Canada. She is a cousin of one of my best friends, and she's a fantastic entrepreneur. She's like taken what was a family business and turned it into just an amazing thing, and she's something like the 34th top entrepreneur in Canada. It's like incredible. And I thought, well, what better advice? So I just wrote to her on Facebook and said, would you be my business mentor? So I asked. There are other routes though. So if you're in East Park, and I do mentoring myself, so I'm a mentor in East Park, so I kind of feel like I'm giving back too. If you're in East Park, there's mentors. You can also, I think, Association of Scottish Businesswomen might offer it. The Chambers, if you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce, I believe you can get some mentors, but there are some restrictions on it. You have to hit some turnover points. And one of my frustrations with going through the advertised routes is that my business didn't hit the certain criteria that they'd set because it was basically too much in its infancy. So yeah, I just went out and asked. So find somebody that you think would be a good mentor for you, and what's the worst they can say? No. I have actually been knocked back. He wasn't a proper knockback. I saw a guy speak that I thought he'd be a great mentor for me. I really like what he says, and I asked him, he went, I'm not going to say no, but I told my wife that I'm not going to take on any more mentees. So he said, but if you need any help, get in touch with me if you want connections made. So it was still a good thing to do. Something came out of it. So if you put yourself out there, you ask the questions, good things happen.
That is very true. So we're going to wrap up in just a few minutes. Is there anything else that you feel that you would like to say to the viewers right now? It's quite a put on the spot question.
Well, I would like to tell them about our Milk Bar event.
So, yes, absolutely.
Yes, so on the 5th of August, we're going to be live streamed for that as well by Product Forge. So we have a meetup group, and the idea is to bring some business transformation to Scotland. So bring like what is going on in business that's like the next wave of thought. Where are things going? How can we do things differently? How can we do things better? And the idea came out of frustration because I kept going to events where I felt like it was the same thing being spoken at me all the time, and I wanted something a little bit more intellectual. I wanted to be challenged. So we thought, right, well, there's a gap, let's do it. So that's the idea. So come along to the Milk Bar. It is 5:30 to 7:30 at Snook's offices. They are co-hosting with us on the 5th of August.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and thank you guys for watching. Tune in next time with Product Forge Live, and this was at Rookie Oven Meetup. So, thank you very much.